episode 5 of Press Steam to Start. We're here today with a new episode after a brief hiatus. This is Jackson, and I am Gardiner. How's it going this morning, Jackson?
Hey, pretty good. Needed a little bit of a break last week. A lot of work last week, so just a little bit of rest, just a little sleep. And now
you can
good
never
to go.
have. Yeah, you can never have too much rest. You don't want to burn yourself out.
We almost got there.
So this week we're gonna be talking about a bunch of stuff. We're gonna be talking about the new release of EmuDeck. We're gonna be talking about the huge Steam beta UI overhaul that is quite exciting to me, which, hey, by the way, is something I predicted, but we'll get into that. We're also going to talk about the new AMD Z1 and Z1 Extreme CPUs, the Jedi Survivor release and how it's kind of in a poor state, and the Activision and Microsoft merger that's been blocked by the UK's board. We're going to talk about all of this today. Let's get into it, Jackson.
Yeah. Why don't we start with, hey, Gardner, what have you been playing?
What have I been playing? I have been playing... Actually, this week I haven't played hardly anything. I've been extremely busy.
I'll let you count last week, too.
Last week? What did I play last week? You know what I did? I put some of my... oh my gosh, my Nintendo DS ROMs on my Switch finally. On my... on my Steam Deck finally, and I was playing Mario Kart 7.
Yeah? Oh, God.
That's a great Mario Kart. I got a lot of good memories playing Mario Kart 7.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and playing that on your Steam Deck, you can't beat it. It's so much fun. One thing that I wish is that there was a simpler, like a more elegant way to display both screens at once.
Oh, yeah. I've seen a lot of cool ways that people have used external screens for that, which is great, but I agree. If there was just some way to do it a little bit easier.
I mean, like having the screen, even if it was like really small down in the corner, and then having the main screen be big, because the only way that I've found that works for me is having a large screen and then the small screen right next to it, so you're kind of looking off to the side when you're playing DS games, 3DS games. But other than that, it's a fun experience, and you can play like Mario Kart Deluxe or Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch. Well, I keep saying the Switch, the Steam Deck, and it's fun, but
it's the Switch Pro.
It's the Switch Pro, dude.
The Switch Pro. The Valve Switch Pro.
Yeah, 60 FPS, bro. What have you been playing this week?
So, and I'm going to count last week a little bit too. I have been diving into Resident Evil 7 and Village because, my partner really wanted me to play Village for them. And I was insistent, like, no, I got to play 7 first. Mm-hmm. And then I started 7 and promptly didn't continue for maybe a year or two. Not for any reason in particular. Just like one of those things of like, oh, I'll play this, and you put it off for way too long. But no, it's really, I really liked, well, I haven't played through 8 that much, but I really like 7. I know, in contrast with what we've got now with a lot of the remakes and 8, I don't think it's as, it's not as front of brain. Like, people are gonna go towards those first, but 7 really was the rejuvenation of the series. Because we had 6, which was just a shit show. 7 came out of nowhere because we thought Resident Evil really was dead. I think the core story and elements of it, I could take or leave necessarily. But I did really like it. I liked the setting. And now 8 is really pulling me in. We've only just, we call him Eric because he's kind of like our friend who just like emulates this dude with the hammer and the hat and just like sends metal at you. I guess he's like Magneto in some way. I don't know. I've just met him. other than that, I have convinced my partner to start playing Pokemon Infinite Fusion, which is,
Ooh.
yeah, basically it's a game based off that like fusion generator where you just stick two Pokemon together and it makes some cursed, terrible monster.
Yeah.
Uh, so far, it's pretty neat. It's just kind of like red or blue. But as soon as you get your starter Pokemon, your rival's like, no, fuck you. I'm taking both and I'm going to smash them together. What?
Yeah.
Huh? So it's pretty neat.
I think I've
And
seen Alpha Rad play that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of opened up the door of looking at Pokemon fan games. I'm not really a huge Pokemon fan or at all. But this is a whole world that I had not known about. Speaking of other worlds I had not really known about, Super Smash Bros. PM Remix, Linux Gaming Central put out a guide how to install this on the Steam Deck. I had played Project M, which is a mod for Super Smash Bros. Brawl that turned it more into Melee. I played that a lot in college. I really loved it. And then I put it down and never looked at the modding scene again. Well, I saw this article come up and I started seeing like all the characters listed. I'm like, holy crap, it's 120 characters. And it's not just like cheap reskins of already existing characters. It's this big compilation of all these mods. So you have Sans, you have a bunch of Sonic characters. You have a lot of the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate characters in the game, which is very interesting to see, like a Joker for Persona 5. It's really awesome to see what these modders can do. And it plays awesome on Steam Deck. So yeah, that's a great time. Go check out Linux Gaming Central's post about it. Go take a look. It's pretty fun, and I can't wait to introduce it to some friends and them say, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. So Project M, just to clarify, Project M was for Brawl to make it more like Melee, right?
Yes, correct.
And this is the same deal, but it's like a remix with more characters.
Sort of. It takes that basis of Project M, which again was to make Brawl more competitive in comparison with Melee, where Brawl introduced slip mechanics. It was slower. Melee was, I mean, it's fast. So they got it more in line with that. And then Project M Remix takes that and then adds a whole bunch of mods from the community, these characters, these stages, these skins, and puts them all together in this nice package. So, I'm really excited to play some more of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I want to check that out now. Cool. So let's get into deck verified games for the week.
Yes. So I want to preface this with saying I used to look for verified games on Twitter, but because the Musk Man has now made it so I can't search Twitter without an account, I can't fucking use Twitter. So thanks, Elon, for nothing. But hey, now I switched over to SteamDB, which is way better for this.
Get used the right tool for the job.
Right. So getting started, we have Grounded, Microsoft's Obsidian's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids survival adventure. Can you thrive alongside the hordes of giant insects fighting to survive the perils of the backyard? Very popular. I don't know if I think it's out of early access. Next, we've got A Plague Tale Requiem, the follow-up to the critically acclaimed A Plague Tale Innocence. Play as Amika? I'm going to say Mika. Amika and Hugo in a dark fantasy setting, adventure twisted by supernatural forces and rats.
Rats.
This was a surprise to everyone. Postal 2 got verified.
Yeah.
Because it released originally in 2003.
Not gonna lie, I read that as Portal 2 because I'm off my rocker.
Just now got verified. It's a blast from past, blast, chop, and piss your way through a dark comedy FPS. It's sort of one of those games. If you didn't really know about it now, I don't know. I'd call it a relic of its time,
Yeah.
but it definitely, you need to had been there to like, I think, get an appreciation of what that game and franchise is.
Yeah, if you didn't know about Postal 2 before it got verified, then you were probably born after like 2004 or something.
Right. I remember watching G4 and then seeing like gameplay of it, of the a cat being used as a weapon,
Yeah.
and thinking, "Oh God." Speaking of cats, all right, come on, Nina. Oh, there we go. Because she'll want to get
All
up
right.
anyways.
Yeah. You want me to take the next few?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. So next we have Moonleap. Play as Moon Boy in this puzzle platformer on an adventure to recover a shooting star, featuring 50 beautiful pixel art graphics. Featuring 50
Oops.
beautiful pixel art graphics, 50
Yeah, no,
levels, and
I
a
added
cute mood.
50 twice.
Featuring beautiful pixel art graphics, 50 levels. There you go. F.E.A.R 3, the last of the F.E.A.R franchise. You, Point Man, genetically enhanced soldier, and your psychic undead cannibal brother battle through a hellish nightmare in this cooperative shooter. Redfall, Arcane, the team behind Dishonored and Prey, give their take on Borderlands/Far Cry, but with vampires. Play alone or together as a cast of unique slayers in this open world FPS. And then we have Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection Volume 1 and 2, which is a mouthful. The classic action RPG from the Game Boy Advance is given new life, featuring 10 games between Volume 1 and 2, each $40. These updates... these update games feature a high resolution.
These updated games feature a high resolution filter option, online multiplayer, and illustration gallery. Yeah, no, sorry about that. I wake up really early to write this section specifically.
Yeah, it's all good, my friend. You know what I've learned when I've been playing around with ChatGPT quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I have learned that, like, I think my mind works a lot like ChatGPT, especially when it comes to reading, because I'm not actually reading what's on the page. My brain is doing like autocomplete, and I'm trying to like predict the next word, and I'm not reading what's actually on the screen. So then I get confused when it doesn't match.
I get that problem too. Like EL really confuses me at times as a dyslexic person. If I see that, I'm gonna jump to elephant regardless of what it is.
Yep.
But no, I think two notes. Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. Capcom's been doing a pretty good job, I'd say, of these remastered. Yes. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. They've been doing the Mega Man. I think they've been doing a fair job of re-releasing these games to make them more accessible. I don't think 40 is too terrible considering how many games you're getting. You can argue you can do most of the same stuff with ROMs and emulators, but you know, that's up to you. I think there's a really decent like entry point to just getting back into the games. And Redfall, I was going to talk about this last week, but Arcane came out and said that the only way to play on consoles is going to be 30 FPS to start with quality mode, where performance mode 60 FPS is going to come later with a patch, and everyone got outraged. I was a little worried. What was that going to mean for the PC port? I'm given a little more faith that since it's deck verified, it's going to have to be playable on the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're not going to experience a bad port like we'll talk about later in the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for some reason, I thought Redfall was like a remaster of an older game, but I guess it's like a new title, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's one of Microsoft's few big hitters coming in.
Yeah, Microsoft doesn't really, besides Halo, they don't really have much else for exclusives, do they?
Forza.
Right, Forza.
They had Gears.
They had Gears. They had
That came
like
out a while ago.
Psychonauts a long, long time ago.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
unofficial like Xbox exclusive, because Sony said no, we don't really think this is gonna be a good fit, and then Psychonauts went on to be like a critical masterpiece.
Yeah.
One of my favorite games.
And they had Brutal Legend at one point too, but Microsoft just squanders all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of mismanagement I find inside of like the gaming division of Microsoft. You have Scalebound, you have everything that had been happening with Halo. Um yeah, they I like some of their franchises, like the Fable franchise. I really enjoyed, even though Peter Molyneux is a giant liar.
Yeah.
Um they have some good stuff in there. They just stuff goes wrong.
Just wanted to let everybody know that if you are watching this video version, then you can also listen to the audio version exclusively to ViewSync members. So if you head over to ViewSync, or if you become a member over there, you can also be a patron or a YouTube member, and you can get access to the audio version as well that way. ViewSync Premium is also available on sale right now, 20% off. Use the link in the description to get 20% off your first 3 months of ViewSync Premium.
Anyways, do we want to, what do we want to start first? Want to do quick stories?
Yeah, let's jump into those.
All right. EmuDeck finally releases its 2.1 with a 2.1 release with a ton of new features. These features include the EmuDeck Store, which is a I'm not going to say marketplace, but a place to download homebrew games for emulators. All free.
It's a repository.
It's a repository. There you go.
Yeah.
It's now easier to manage and install emulators, either one by one or all together. The UI has been made much more user-friendly and more coherent, not coherent, cohesive, more cohesive with Steam. Steam ROM Manager also now taking that UI as well, at least in the theme aspect. And now there's some new emulators, which include MGBA Standalone, which is a GBA, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Melon DS Standalone, but I believe Rosalind's Mupen GUI for N64, Pico 8 Retro Arc Core, CMU App Image, and Yuzu Early Access, which is really cool because I finally started signing up for their Patreon and was like, how do I get this on Steam Deck? I was like, oh, this is kind of annoying to get it on there. So now it's really simple. You update and then it gives you an option to switch over to that, and it just pops up with a little window saying, hey, give us your token. You put it in, all done. That's all it is.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. Have you, I'll be completely honest. Before this update, the only reason that I would ever open up the EmuDeck proper, the EmuDeck app, is to update.
Yeah.
And just EmuDeck itself. The thing is, like, at this point, I as soon as I heard about this, I went and downloaded it on my deck, and I was blown away by the user interface and the experience. It's so much better. It's like leagues better. And EmuDeck is, I mean, there are other like emulation tools
certainly
that are really great, but EmuDeck and Steam ROM Manager, it's like, this is like a coherent little thing that it's meant to make the process of emulation on the Steam Deck incredibly simple. And it's so nice. If you haven't used it, I highly recommend you try it.
And first-time users are going to be able to figure out pretty easily. It's very painless. And I'll say it came a long way from when it first was around. Because it was originally like a script that you download and run in a terminal and then set up that way. And now it used to be like set it and forget it. Now there's more reason to go into the EmuDeck application to go to the store. But no, it's really simple to grab what you need, get out. It's not intrusive. It's dead simple, and I absolutely love it. I think one of my wishes at some point is, if it's at all possible, if EmuDeck could somehow simplify the sync things process. Like, I don't know if that's really something that they can do, but setting up sync thing for quote unquote cloud saves, so I can sync between my PC and
Mm,
not. I've already got it set up, but new users, I think that's if for whatever reason they don't use the cloud services that they list in EmuDeck, which actually I think is kind of a small user base like me, because you got
mm,
Google Drive, I think Dropbox, and then also Nextcloud.
mm,
I think those are the three cloud services that they use for save the save games. Um, but it'd be really cool if they could somehow also incorporate sync things into that. But um, I think that's there's more technical challenges there. Um, Also, one feature I forgot, the cloud services page, and that's kind of
mm.
interesting because it's not just gaming cloud services like Chiaki for PlayStation remote streaming, Game Pass or whatnot. It's also Crunchyroll, Disney Plus, uh, stuff like that. Netflix, I would assume, which
Yeah.
is not something I ever think about. But then I realized, oh, it's a PC. I could do that. So that just cuts down another device you need to bring with you at any point.
Hmm.
Um, Especially if, so I just picked up a external monitor, uh, and it's pretty sweet. Not gonna lie, it's that. Oh, was it? It's the. I have the box somewhere. The Azorpa G1. I don't know. It's 144 hertz external monitor.
Mm,
Really neat. I mostly use it with my phone because I had it's Samsung Dex on there,
mm.
but it's super cool to just suddenly blow up the Steam Deck's screen with the external screen, and I could use that for like DS and 3DS emulation. There you go.
Right. The one thing that I wanted to talk about, because you mentioned like cloud syncing for games that
Mhm.
don't support it. There is a Decky loader plugin that helps with that, and it uses I'm not sure exactly what it uses for cloud syncing, but I know that it exists.
Nice. Okay.
Um, yeah. I wanted to look. I have my Steam Deck right here. I'm looking at the EmuDeck right now,
Mhm. I just
and
simply use the I download sync things and then add it as actually I add Firefox as a sync thing app into game mode, and then I just default the homepage to the sync thing
mm,
interface. So I just quickly
nice.
launch it and get out.
That's cool. Yeah, this is I thought that there was something in here that was EmuDeck store. Where's the cloud section?
Actually, not fully aware. Let me. Oh, I didn't list the shoot. I didn't list the article in here.
Cloud services manager right here.
Oh, there you go.
Boom. There is a cloud backup thing, but I don't. You want to use sync thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, they have Box and Google Drive and Nextcloud, OneDrive.
which is still really good
Yeah,
options in there.
another service they could add is
Mhm.
like Synology, because I know a
Uh,
lot of people like that like that turnkey solution. You know what I'm
mhm.
saying? So if they had Synology in there, that would be a good option. And Synology, basically, just there's two or three different simple ways to add it. Like even if it was like a SMB thing that you could add to this, that would be cool.
Mhm. So, speaking of updates, Steam Beta UI got a huge overhaul. Gardner, I can't talk today. Gardner, you
It's
want
all
to take
good.
us through it?
The Steam Beta overhaul, absolutely. So the uh, basically, I have predicted this was going to happen for a while. Uh, if you like compared like what the new library on desktop looked like compared to the window around said interface, it was like a mismatched experience. They didn't mesh well, and so this new Steam beta basically overhauls all the window dressing for Steam, and it adds a bunch of new stuff. The overhaul adds a new in-game overlay, which is really exciting because that had been looking long in the tooth. And it has an updated design and new features, including the toolbar at the bottom, which has a bunch of like quick access stuff. It has a new notes app, saved per game, and accessible in game or out, which is awesome. There's a Steam client notification upgrade, which allows for more rich and more useful Steam notifications. And it has the screenshot manager that's been completely refreshed with new functionality. I have it right here on installed on this machine. One thing that is particularly of note is that it now supports GPU acceleration on Linux and Mac, although the Mac version has not been released yet. Yeah, have you tried this? Have you played around with this?
I mostly keep my stuff on stable just because I don't have enough time to dive into the beta, and I want to get a sense of what this feels like for most people that are unstable. But
Yeah.
man, I'm so excited. Just the notes feature, the ability to save a post-it note that is an overlay on a game-to-game basis.
Mm-hmm.
Huge. Now, do we know does it work for non-Steam games?
I was going to ask that. I would imagine yes, it will.
Because there's no you can make game per game settings for non-Steam games for like controls and other stuff. So I don't see any reason it couldn't happen.
Yeah. I'm curious how these notes are going to work on Steam Deck. Because if you're going to have it on desktop, it should work on Steam Deck.
Absolutely.
And there really isn't an overlay. I mean, it doesn't work the same way at all on Steam Deck. But I'm guessing that like there is some like negative space underneath the like the menu there, or maybe if you like push right 2 times, you get into the controller like overlay, you could go over one more screen, and then there's like notes and other things. That all should be pretty cool. And the other thing to mention about this is they're changing the Steam desktop to be more in line with the to share code basically between game mode on Steam Deck, big picture mode, and the desktop client. Great. The reason they're doing that is because if you remember, the old big picture mode was, they made it once and then they didn't touch it until they remade it again. And then they didn't touch it until they put in the new big picture mode. And they want to mitigate that because it was just too much unique code between the two. They couldn't make a change on the desktop and then have it like automatically reflect in big picture mode, and the same, and vice versa too. They couldn't make a change in big picture mode and have it update in desktop version. So what they're doing here, I mean, if you notice, like if you go into the library, like they've been working on the new Steam Deck, the new Steam desktop library for a while, and it looks very similar to game mode, right? It looks very similar to big picture mode. Like they're using the same art assets. There's the same kind of like mouse over and it like kind of expands. It's a very similar UI. It's all done in HTML, I believe, and CSS, which I don't blame them because it's HTML and CSS is simple and easy and it works really well. And so all of this is shared code between the desktop and big picture mode. Right. That's a good thing. We want that because that means that at some point, when they make changes, it's easy. Do you remember when they did like the friends refresh, like the Steam buddy list refresh?
Yeah, that was a while ago, wasn't it?
It was. But you did the Steam friend list. They updated that. You would open it. Okay, great. It looks great on desktop. Then you went into big picture mode, and it was like this tonk, like it just did not mesh with the rest of big picture mode. And But now it does, right? Because
Oh
big
yeah.
picture mode's been updated. So unifying this code base is a great thing, because anytime they have new features that they want to roll out, it's going to be very simple, almost trivial for them to roll them out in both places.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think that that's a good thing.
And not to mention, if you share the same design language, that's going to help
Yeah.
new users understand and feel familiar with what's happening.
Yep.
I feel like sometimes, even if the design language has the same buttons and interface, if a new user enters a different looking interface, they get scared and say, I don't know what to do. What is this?
Yeah.
And you run the risk of, if you keep old UI and design with the new stuff, then you turn into you have a Windows problem where you have stuff from like Windows XP with Windows 11. You
Yep.
just get these weird menus that look so old, and then random uh newer menus that Microsoft is trying to force everyone to use, that we don't understand, because for 20 or 30 years we've been using these old ass menus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Control panel still exists in Windows 11.
and I dive into it like every day when I'm
Yeah.
using Windows, mind you.
Yeah.
Because it's way more useful than anything Microsoft is putting in the modern menus. It's so frustrating to find certain things.
Yep.
So I'm
Uh,
so fantastically excited for this new update. I'm just going to make notes for each game of my own custom quest log to do things.
yep. This is a huge change. There's a bunch of other cool features too that we don't really have time to go over all of them.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm going to be talking about this in more detail in an upcoming video, because I'm super stoked for this.
Yeah. That's not the only thing that Steam did this week. They have the Steam Puzzle Fest going on.
Ooh.
So again, one of their game fests. It was on the calendar. We had a post a while ago about it. All puzzle opposed to the mystery kind of games, which there's some similarities. So I'm sure there's similar deals going on. But you've got games like Tetris Effect Connect, 50% off. Puyo Puyo Tetris 2, 75% off. The Mist Through the Ages bundle, which I had thought was going to have the Mist and sequel games. It's just Mist. It is just Mist, the one game, 3 times, which, great game.
Yeah.
You've got the Mist remake, then you've got Mist Masterpiece Edition, which is the remaster of the old game, and then you have Real Mist, which is one that you can freely walk around in. Again, all the same game. That is. Oh, did I not put percentage off? I feel like it's like $16 to $20 for the bundle. You have Zero Escape, the Nonary games, 70% off. That is a 2-pack of the first 2 games in the Zero Escape franchise, which is like, I think it's called 999. It was on the DS, and on the Vita, I want to say 3DS, was Zero. Oh, I can't see it from my shelf. Zero Escape. Whatever it was called. But it was a very good game. It was a really high rated Vita game. I loved it when I played it. 70% off. And We Were Here series bundle, 61% off. It is a co-op puzzle game trying to escape various different things. It's not like Escape Room Simulator. It's a whole kind of adventure. I believe in the first one, at least, you and your partner are separated somewhere in this castle, and you have a walkie-talkie to try to figure out how to get through everything. It sounds really cool. Steam also has the Devolver Publisher Weekend sale, and then the Golden Week Japanese Game Fest. So that's Capcom, Square Enix, I haven't seen all of the sale, like all the company sales there, but
I know the Xbox Digital Studios one,
that's
or
also
the
happening.
Xbox publisher. Yeah.
Yeah. But not to be outdone, GOG now has its good old game sale after I
Mm,
just got done highlighting what was it? The Traveler sale and something else. Like GOG has had a lot of sales lately.
mm-hmm.
But the sale ends May 10th and it includes games released a decade ago or older and critically acclaimed. So out of 5 games, I picked Metal Gear Solid 30% off, The Saboteur 75% off, Dragon Age Origins Ultimate Edition 75% off. One quick note, I did have that copy. I've tried putting it on the deck, but I had issues with the DLC. I
Mm-hmm.
eventually broke down and bought the Steam version. So if you do buy it, just keep in mind there might be some finagling to get the DLC working.
Mm-hmm.
Populous, the beginning, 75% off, and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, 50% off. Other GOG sales include the Star Wars sale, May the 4th be with you sale, and Space Out sale.
Nice.
So, all great stuff to get some cheap games.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of Star Wars games on GOG just
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's so like they have such good deals sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Does GOG still have the no DRM policy? Because I think Dragon
Um,
Age Origins is gonna have DRM, right?
no, Dragon Age Origins does not have DRM.
Really? Okay.
No, it does not. Again, there is some weirdness with the DLC
Mm,
because like EA has retired some of either the oh no they retired like the old EA account, Dragon or BioWare account stuff, so it can't like double check that you've got the DLC in your
mm,
account anymore. So now you've got to do certain things to like individually install the DLC. So again, it's kind of annoying.
yeah.
Um, but there was a while back where a Hitman game, I think Hitman 3, which had an always online component, was released on GOG, and then there was backlash for saying this is not DRM free, it's always online. What's going on? Um, so I don't know if GOG has relaxed DRM policy necessarily, but I have not seen a game that has not listed the DRM free uh, in the page.
Mm-hmm.
So I still think it's a really good store to get DRM free games.
Okay, that's good to know.
Um, so in other less fun news, Roblox intentionally blocks Steam Deck players. This
Ro-
is yeah.
hot take: Roblox should intentionally be blocked by everyone.
Fair statement. Issue seems to be caused by an anti-cheat, anti-tamper software Bifron.
Bifron. I've
Yeah,
never heard
sure.
of it.
I don't know. In a forum post, it was explained that the Roblox devs have made the intentional decision to block wine. The game will crash when the I really made a lot of spelling mistakes here. The game will crash when it detects wine being used. In that post, they cite a combination of security and compatibility concerns. Quote as the reason for the block.
Yeah.
In a following post, though, another dev reassures Linux users that wine remains a priority for our team, and we are certainly not deaf to the voices of our community. Um,
Oh my
so
god.
maybe they'll come back. I don't know. I don't fully care.
The I hope I just Roblox needs to be banned. It's
Uh,
evil.
as an explanation for that, there's two great videos from People Make Games on YouTube.
Yeah.
It highlights they research and highlight very serious problems with Roblox and
Yeah.
the community and development around that, which, as example, includes exploitation of young slash child game developers because
Hmm.
it's a game where you can basically make your own game. Um, the collectible marketplace leading to gambling, and then I'm just gonna say major child safety concerns. and we're going to
Yes.
leave it that.
Yeah.
I highly recommend watching these videos. They're really well done and researched and shine a really big spotlight on this game. If you have any kids that play Roblox, maybe watch these videos.
I heard that one of my nieces was playing the game, and I had to send the videos from People Make Games to my sibling because I was like, they should not be playing that game.
No.
It's
If
awful.
I had kids, honestly, I would not let them play online games.
No,
until...
I mean, dude, if man, it's insane to me that like kids are allowed to play online games at all. Like, it's wild.
Well, it's the whole ERSB. Did I say
ESRB.
ESRB. There we go. It's the whole like, hey, we don't rate online interactions because it's goddamn garbage. Has anyone been in an Xbox Live Call of Duty lobby? Remember those days? Oh man, I do. That was not a fun group of people to be talking with.
My first experience as an Xbox 360 player online was on Splinter Cell. Was it? What was the one? Double Agent? Is that it? Yeah, I think that was it. I played. I had bought Splinter Cell Double Agent. It was like around the time when the 360 first launched.
Oh, okay.
And so Splinter Cell Double Agent, I get into a lobby, and there was a dude who was just like, "Get the F out of here! You're an effing F.E.A.R. You know, get out of here. We're waiting for our friends." Because this was before they had like parties and stuff.
Wow, that's really tame.
Yeah, and I know. Well, they were like calling me a lot of like slurs and stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm just not going to use Xbox Live.
I'm out. Bye.
And then I never paid for Xbox Live Gold.
In high school, I did a lot of Halo 3 Xbox Live, and I will say I did make I had my Xbox Live posse.
Yeah.
And that was pretty fun. And we did, back in the day, Halo 3, as an explanation, there was different armor sets you could get. Bungie employees got the armor set, Recon armor set, and everyone wanted that. It became a meme. So eventually, sort of an expansion / standalone game, Halo 3 ODST comes out. It then comes with these achievements called the VidDoc achievements. If you got all of those achievements, you would get Recon armor. So me and my friends gunned those achievements. And there were some hard achievements in there, like complete the ending of Halo 3 on Legendary with 4 ghosts. Pretty challenging. The one where we had was the firefight achievement, which is like last a certain number of waves. I think I might have talked about this before. Yeah, and it was a super tense night. I want to say it was like 2-3 hours of playing this, and we didn't get it. We were very defeated. But I do like those moments. A lot of other ones, don't like.
Yeah. The only way I've ever enjoyed playing like multiplayer is either local couch co-op or local competitive like Smash Bros.
Right.
Or LAN.
Yeah.
I have never in my life wanted to play an online game. There's something about like the online games that I just can't get behind. Even if I've played the same game locally on LAN, it's a completely different experience.
Oh yeah.
And I just don't find online gaming that appealing. So
I can be okay with online gaming as a substitute for not being there in person. Like I've got people on the other side of the country that I don't get to see ever, and my friend Evan and I will just get into Age of Mythology and we'll bitch about life while playing on easy because we're not paying attention to anything. But really, that's just a substitute for a substitute for local, because all my best experience have been locally couch co-op.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I think it's time to dive into the major stories because we've got, man, this week has been so full of news.
It
I
has.
I've actually kind of struggled of like what news to cover and what to include here. It
Yeah.
I started Tuesday to write articles and I had an idea of like, all right, this is what I'm gonna write. And then every single day something would break that was bigger than what I was gonna write. I was gonna write the sales. I had
Mm-hmm.
planned to write those sales like ever since Tuesday. I had to push off for like 3 days because there was just such heavy hitters in the news. And at some point, I was going to try to cover stuff yesterday, but I got home late from work and I was like, you know what? Hey, got to work on the dock. There's just so much here.
Yeah.
So, at the start of week, we had AMD finally reveal the Z1 and Z1 Extreme chips that are dedicated for PC handhelds.
Yeah. This is exciting
This
stuff.
is huge.
Yeah. I mean, apparently the Ally is going to be the first device to have the Z1 and Z1 Extreme chips, if I'm right.
Right.
They're going to have the Z1 Extreme chip is rumored to be the $700 Ally variant.
Right.
Which
is nuts.
Bananas, because if they're putting the Z1 in the Z1 Extreme in the $700 model, then that means that the Z1 chip is going to be the less expensive model, which will probably compete with the Steam Deck in a lot of key areas.
It could be $600.
It could be $550. I mean, it could be.
Yeah.
I'm curious because one of the things that sets the Steam Deck apart, like people always like forget about this. The Steam Deck has LPDDR5,
right?
Okay, for RAM is 16 gigabytes. Most of the other chips out there have DDR4, or most of the other handhelds have DDR4, and even if they have DDR5, it's not LPDDR, right?
Yep.
So it's slower, it has less bandwidth. The fact that the Ally has LPDDR5, that's huge, because these chips, okay, even like the Van Gogh and the what was the one that's in most of them, the RDNA 1 chips, the Zen 1 chips.
The RDNA to 6800.
Oh yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Most of those chips, they have the integrated APU. The GPU is part of the CPU. It doesn't have dedicated RAM. So the fact that these other handhelds don't have LPDDR5, they have less bandwidth, and that is a significant contributor to worse performance than the Steam Deck.
And let's just be clear, the 6800U was not like some cheap CPU. No. It had some pretty impressive performance.
Yeah, but it was hampered by the memory bandwidth, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
With the Z1 and the Z1 Extreme, or at least with the Ally, they have LPDDR5. So that bottleneck's not there. It's out of the equation. That it's on par with the Steam Deck in terms of memory bandwidth. It might even have a little bit more memory bandwidth. That's enormous. And so my skepticism of the Ally was that it was going to cost $1,100 for the entry model, right?
Right. There was a quote last week where they said, "Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna be under $1,000." So I had immediately thought, okay, so entry level, it's gonna be just under $1,000.
Yeah.
The more expensive that you would kind of want is gonna be over $1,000.
Right. But the fact that it's $700, allegedly $700 for the lower model, we have to specify that too, because it's like, the Nvidia leaks where it's like, oh yeah, these new Nvidia GPUs are going to be whatever, and then it costs way more when it actually leaks, when it actually launches. But
let's quickly mention that it was leaked that this Ally had this Ryzen, this Z1 chip in it. Like the specs had leaked. We had speculated that this was the Z1. AMD officially confirmed it. So these leaks seem to have some validity.
They do. I'm curious if these leaks are part of like guerrilla marketing of some kind, because I don't know. The fact is, there was a quote here. Who's the quote from? Andrew Cunningham from Ars Technica. AMD's performance numbers are all from an ROG Ally prototype running in turbo mode, which allows the APU to draw up to 30 watts of power, right?
Right.
So I'm torn about this because, you know, the Steam Deck sips power, right? The Steam Deck, it's 15 watts at a maximum, right? I can play Spelunky on here, many indie games on my Steam Deck for hours, like multiple hours, 3, 4, 5 hours without any issue. Like I still have battery left over after like 4 or 5 hours.
And one of the biggest strengths of the Steam Deck is that we've seen the Fox and others cover this, but its low wattage performance is amazing. Like there's something happening where at 5, at 3 watts, it outperforms a lot of other chips like that, like the 6800U.
Yeah.
Now, that said, the 6800U is specifically a laptop ultrabook CPU.
Yeah.
This Z1 is specifically made for gaming handhelds. So are we going to see that same type of really amazing performance at low wattage on this chip?
I have a theory.
Yeah?
I think we will.
Yeah.
Because I think that the customizations that Valve have worked with AMD on for the Steam Deck's APU, I think Valve are saying get that out to other handheld chips.
Yeah.
I really do. I think the battery optimizations, I think Valve, that's the kind of company Valve is. But on the flip side, there's quotes in the press release from AMD about you playing a PC Game Pass, you know, and it's like, and quotes from like the head of Xbox hardware, is that Roanne Sones? It's like, it's like, who's footing the bill for this?
Right. This is this is where I was like, all right, I'm going to throw my best guess out in the ring. I think it's not my first. I'm not the first one to point out the Game Pass branding on the Ally page on Best Buy. I didn't pay much mind of it. Some other people, I think it might have been the Fox or ETA Prime, had mentioned, hey, look at this. This is interesting. I was like, it's probably just ASUS taking advantage of the Steam Deck can't run that, so they're going to put it on there. And then you have this Xbox head of hardware have a direct quote in the AMD press release. The AMD press release first saying Game Pass, not Steam, Game Pass. It seems like to me Microsoft at some degree is contributing to this.
Yes.
I think someone had said if you buy the Ally, you get 3 months of Game Pass for free. I think that could be wrong. But this definitely seems like the Trojan horse of get Game Pass into people's hands. Not that Microsoft needed another Trojan horse.
Well, you know, they're the king of Trojan horses. The thing is here, okay, the thing that like has me thinking, because I read the article you wrote for ViewSync, and I thought it was incredibly insightful, and that got me thinking, because we saw a new like a prototype in the wild of a Steam Deck hardware revision, and it looked to me, you know, like a cost-cutting revision, right?
Sure.
There were fewer chips on the board, on the main board.
Thinner copper heat pipe.
And shorter, too.
Yeah.
And that would save multiple dollars per Steam Deck.
Oh, yeah.
Between Microsoft, I think Microsoft is subsidizing the ROG Ally and perhaps even Z1 chipsets for... We'll see what happens in the future, but if there's other handhelds coming from like A&Neo with a Z1 or Z1 Extreme chipset, maybe Microsoft is subsidizing the cost of that hardware. It could even just be like, oh, by the way, no OEM fees. You can have Windows for free on these things because you're running a Z1 chip. It just has to come with Game Pass, right?
That
it
could
could be
knock
something.
$100 off.
Yeah, and that would be a huge boon for Microsoft. So I'm guessing, Acer I'm sorry, Acer, ROG has ASUS. That's what it is. Has a big enough market footprint where Microsoft would partner with them and like give them money per unit, and I can see Microsoft doing that. But I think with this hardware revision for the Steam Deck, it's a cost-cutting thing, and we might see a lower price on the Steam Deck in order for them to compete with this. I really do. I mean, Valve's losing money on every 64 gigabyte model,
right?
But they are probably making a profit on every 512 model. The 512 model is one of them. It's probably the most popular model, because Valve, every time that they've talked about the numbers, they've been like, it surprised the shit out of us that people are buying the 512 model,
right?
So it might be that Valve's like, you know what, we're just going to take a loss, and they might come out with like a 1 terabyte model and make a slight profit on that and lose money on everything else. I could see that happening, especially when this fight heats up here.
Right. I mean, Valve has that 30% cut that they just, I'm not going to say they have a stranglehold of the PC market, but they're the go-to PC marketplace.
And for good reason. I would rather have my games on Steam right now, because it just makes playing the game on my Steam Deck that much easier, right?
As we covered in the past, there's a lot of features that Valve incorporates into Steam that add a lot of value.
Absolutely. Steam input is just mind-blowingly awesome. And that's the other thing about the Ally that I really am not excited for, right? Like the Ally, okay, great. It might have a really great like performance overhead versus the Steam Deck, right? You might get more performance, but guess what? It doesn't have the trackpads, and it doesn't have the touch sensitive thumbsticks, right?
Or gyro, I believe.
I haven't seen anything about gyro.
I don't think it has gyro.
And those three factors right there make it pretty much dead on arrival for me. Like, as someone who only plays games on the Steam Deck, and even when I play games on my PC, it's mostly with the controller.
Right.
Okay. I find it even hard to play games with a controller, with like the DualSense, right? Because the trackpad is in the middle and you have to freaking monkey grip it to use that. And then it doesn't have the touch sensitive controls. So the gyro is always on, or you have to like configure some weird, like when you're holding the left trigger to aim down the sights, then you can do the gyro. That sucks. Like the touch sensitive thumbsticks are the way to go, and it's just not going to be a good gaming experience for me. Plus the ergonomics don't look that good, if I'm being quite honest.
Slight note for me, when I use gyro aiming for DualSense, I map it to touching the touchpad to enable gyro. So I don't know if that will help anyone.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why. It's just slightly easier for me. So yeah, I will say.
Now I gotta try it.
Also for me, I am on the same boat of like, I need that sort of gyro. I need all the inputs that Valve has given me. I've spent a year on this. I'm not going back. That said, we're in the minority. There is so many more people that prefer just a standard, controller. Sony had put out some kind of report that people just didn't care or weren't using all the features of the DualSense controller, which is kind of sad because I think it has a lot of interesting features in it. I just haven't, without a PS5, I haven't seen a lot of developers utilize it. So
on PC, it's not really possible right now to access some of the stuff, right?
If you have Windows, you can download a application specifically that can change the trigger. But it's
really?
Third-party software. It has to run in the background. I don't know how much functionality there is, but it does have like a test game that you can change the resistance on the pull and all these things. It's pretty neat. If you do have it, I would recommend just checking out. But for most of everyone else, when they pick up the ROG Ally, they're gonna say, "All right, this is sufficient for me. It's got a controller. I got it." Um,
Yeah.
and if and I highlighted this, if it is set up out of the box the right way, great. It'll do
Hmm.
really well. My fear is, though, Ace is going to set this up to like 20, 28 watts out of the box. It's going to gun that APU. It's going to burn through battery. The screen is going to set to 144 hertz by default.
Hmm.
Um, I think most people are going to encounter poor battery life because they don't tweak it, and they're going to say, "What the hell is this?" And then also Windows, it still sucks on handheld.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that Asus does some decent tweaks, but there's only so much they can do when they don't control the operating system.
Yeah. I mean, what really needs to happen is there needs to be a specific build of Windows for handhelds. Microsoft is not going to do that, in my opinion. They're going to rely on standard Windows and like PC Game Pass launcher, and that's going to be it, right? Um, I just can't see Microsoft building like Windows Series X.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
just think about every time we had the light version of Windows come out, because
Yeah.
ever since Windows 8, we've had some kind of version of like Windows RT. We had Windows S mode.
Yeah. There was also Windows X, I think.
Windows X.
It was Windows 10X is what it was called.
10X. I mean, I believe you. They've had various versions and flavors of like a slimmed down version of Windows, and it has always failed.
Yeah.
It is always just
also,
not been sufficient.
Also, pretty much every like cut down version of Windows that they've offered has been limited to the Microsoft Store. You couldn't install software from outside of it. So like you have to be careful what you wish for, right? Like the people who want a version of Windows that's specifically for handhelds, guess what? That's going to be limited to buying games from the Microsoft Store or PC Game Pass. And that's going to be it. Like unless there's some kind of jailbreak that comes out, you're going to have to jailbreak your freaking handheld. Like that's the thing. People think that I'm being hyperbolic when I talk about this stuff, but it's absolutely the case. I mean, there's a long and storied history over more than a decade at this point of Microsoft releasing cut down versions of Windows that are limited to installation from the Microsoft Store. And it's
they wanted that App Store model. We went from Microsoft making Windows as selling you one time on the operating system with Windows, from it started, to Windows 7, to then Windows as an App Store model trying to take 30% off sales in the Windows Store. And that flopped terribly. No one wanted to develop for that. Yep. And now they've switched to a data and services model. They don't really care to sell you Windows. If you just download the Windows ISO, install it, and don't use a Microsoft account, they don't care. They could introduce more ways of limiting the functionality of a non-activated version of Windows 11, but they don't care. They're collecting your data. They're getting you to use Office 365, Game Pass, OneDrive, all these perpetual reoccurring payments that they
they're
could
pushing
really
ads in your face.
And ads. They're putting so many more ads in the start menu, in widgets, in all of these things. So they truly just don't care at a certain point.
Yeah. It's crazy. And the other thing is, if you go and look at Windows 10X, right? They like the UI, it had a different UI than Windows 10, right? And guess what it looks like? Windows 11. It looks exactly like Windows 11. Like they had built out the I guess it was never like released fully, but it was based on Windows Core OS, and they decided to take Windows
it the
10X.
ARM version?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, this was like a full x86 desktop but it was limited in where you could download games from or any software. And also Windows Core OS. It was built on top of Windows Core OS. Do you remember that?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. That was another one of their walled garden versions of Windows. So if you don't believe us, look it up. I mean, honestly, this is something that Microsoft has been trying to do for 10 years at a minimum. Ever since they had the 360 be a huge success, they've been trying to lock down Windows and kind of create the same walled garden that they have on the Xbox.
Yeah.
And if Microsoft sees the value in closing it down, like especially if the only way I could imagine Windows having a handheld version is if it's locked to the Microsoft Store and they have a revenue split with the hardware manufacturer, right? Like that would be how I could see Microsoft trying to compete with the Steam Deck.
Right.
Will that happen?
To Game
we'll
Pass
see.
and then split some amount of that.
Yeah. I mean, either, there'll be two options. It'll be Game Pass or the Windows Store, Microsoft Store, and that's it. Like you're not gonna be able to have your games on Steam, guys. So I don't know.
After seeing all this information about the Ally, I am more hopeful and excited about it. If I were to buy it, I would probably load this up with Chimera OS.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Right. And I really hope that the Chimera OS team gets a hold of this so they can build specifically for it. Because one of the issues with the 6800U handhelds is that you would install Holo iOS or Chimera, and you wouldn't have that easy TDP access.
Right.
You could go in and use what is it, Ryzen Adjust, but that's through the command line. It's not so much of a hassle, but you do have to like press U to set this TDP. If you don't have a keyboard, that becomes so much more of a hassle. The quick access menu with that little slider, that's what I want. And I have seen some people, some independent developers, work on essentially a copycat quick access menu for Windows. So if I were to run Windows, I would immediately get that. Although I think for the Ally, ASUS is going to have some better options just built in. I think they've shown off the software of it having the overlay fairly easy, customized TDP. But for Linux, I really want to see at some point that TDP be able to be customized with an overlay or just a slider.
Yeah.
But you're still losing that input again. So, screen's going to be better. Also, the Ally has been confirmed to have a variable refresh rate screen.
Yep.
So free sync and whatnot. It can crank up to 144 hertz, but then drop back down to, they haven't say the minimum frame rate, but say like 30 FPS, 40 FPS. So you pull that high frame rate when you need it, but then you pull back when it's not needed, which is going to go to save some battery.
I would like to see Valve release SteamOS 3 as an ISO, and I want SteamOS to have native support for the ROG Ally hardware. And one thing that they need to do is have the Steam overlay and the quick access menu where there is a VRR display. When you pull up those overlays, it should take control of VRR away from the application and give it to the overlay, so that the overlay can, when you have those windows up, it's going to reduce the frame rate to only change when it needs to, right? And save huge amounts of battery life by doing that. I want to at least have Valve release Steam OS 3, like not even focusing on, hey, this one has VRR support, we're going to add this into it specifically for that, we're going to add whatever for this.
they've worked with the custom APU from AMD. We now have a custom APU for the Z1 and the Z Extreme. I would love Valve to release SteamOS 3, which can take advantage of the Z1 Extreme, because that's going to be in basically every handheld gaming device, handheld PC gaming handheld, coming up. Like, everyone's going to use that. Everyone has skipped over Intel, you know, back when the 6000 series released for the APUs.
Mm-hmm.
All the other niche manufacturers said, nope, we're not even going to bother with Intel. AMD is killing it. So I just want to see that much. Which also raises the question, like, what do these niche manufacturers do? Because if ASUS can come out here and make a handheld for $700 with ASUS support and in Best Buy, oh man, like, what do you do?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like I said, I think Microsoft is footing the bill here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, ASUS is probably losing money on every one of these.
Yeah.
If Microsoft or is very close to losing money, I bet you Microsoft is paying like $100 or maybe $200. I don't know, $120. Yeah, and including Game Pass, and maybe even like giving them free Windows 10 license or Windows 11 licenses.
Yeah,
that's my speculation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. We're yeah,
we're gonna move on now.
Yeah, we do.
In huge video game news, just in general, I have been trying to kind of avoid talking about this because it's been so messy for so long, but I can't now. The UK CMA regulatory body has blocked Microsoft and Activision's merger.
Mm-hmm.
This is huge.
Yes.
There was
good.
I thought it was a leak, but rather a little while ago, the CMA actually was in favor for the merger, citing, hey, it makes no sense for Microsoft to lock down Call of Duty. They need it on all platforms. They're inking all these deals to keep it there for 10 years. This is not going to create monopoly. And I, from the start, was like, oh, this is how Microsoft is going to have a monopoly on cloud services.
Yeah.
And so I didn't think any was going to think about, at least any regulators were going to think about that. But then they specifically cited that if they don't block this, Microsoft's going to become a monopoly for cloud gaming streaming services, which is so smart for a regulatory body to do. Mm-hmm. Congrats. Yep. You did something right.
It's as if they are like looking down the road.
Right. It's like someone had told them, hey, guess what? It's not just about Call of Duty. Yeah. Which this is huge because Microsoft was also planning to use the CMA win in their upcoming FTC suit with the FTC suit to argue, hey, we already have a vote of confidence from this government's regulatory body. You're just holding us back and wasting our time. Like, we're already getting so many deals going on. What are you trying to prove? But now that that's been blocked, far more reason for the FTC to say, the CMA kind of has a point here. There is something to be worried about.
Yeah.
And so during all of this, Microsoft has been inking deals not only to share Call of Duty, but also share Call of Duty and other stuff with other cloud services. Because I'm sure they were aware, like, oh, they're going to think of this. But even the difference between putting other games on other consoles and putting games on cloud streaming services is that I'm not going to say like any company can have their own console, but it's easier for Sony and Nintendo to have a version of Call of Duty on their console that they just developed for, or the developers put and aim for those consoles. it is far harder for them to spin up their own servers and maintain the back end for a cloud service provider.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think of that kind of scale that Microsoft Game Pass is operating at, the only ones at that scale that can really compete with the amount of servers and stuff is Amazon and Google, really. Google
Mm-hmm.
has the Stadia tech, I think. I think they were licensing out if it wasn't fully like spun down, but they at least
Yeah.
have like the servers needed for that sort of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
Amazon with Luna, which I is still the thing. Um, and I don't know. uh, I think there's a few other smaller cloud gaming providers, but it's so hard to compete with Azure, Google, and AWS in
Mm-hmm.
that space. It's
I think the
so
only other
hard.
one is Nvidia, right?
Yes, Nvidia does have GeForce Now, and
Yeah.
Nvidia is the one other company that has the tech that could manage this.
Yeah.
Anyone else is gonna have to ask one of those three, well, four maybe, uh, to basically use their tech, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna be paying a licensing fee.
Right.
So if at the end of the day, Microsoft inks all these deals with the cloud, other cloud gaming servers, cloud gaming services, but they have to rely on Microsoft's Azure server and the xCloud backend,
Mm-hmm.
then Microsoft still wins.
Right. I've heard rumors that Valve is working on a cloud gaming service.
Yeah.
And I mean, what if the Steam Deck is like a backdoor into cloud services? Think
Yeah.
about it, right? Like you get Proton working flawlessly. You have Steam OS. You don't have to pay licensing fees for Windows, and then you can deploy using VPS services and
Right.
GPU infrastructure. I mean, that would be interesting for Valve.
That would be really neat. I'm still hoping at some point Valve introduces a Steam Pass, essentially their own
Yeah.
kind of competitor, where you pay a certain amount and then get games.
See, the issue though with that, is that Microsoft does not make money.
Yeah.
And most publishers don't make money from Game Pass, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like that is an unsustainable model from a company that's trying to become a monopoly. And they're saying like this X amount of loss we're willing to take if it means that future generations of gamers don't think about buying games. They think about renting them through Game Pass, right?
Right.
And,
I mean, it's a Netflix model.
But the thing is, the difference is like Netflix doesn't make money, but like a lot of other streaming services, actually none of them make money, right? Most of them, like they're investing like multi millions of dollars into each of their shows.
Right.
And they're charging $11 a month. And now they're all rolling out ad supported versions because the money that they're making isn't enough.
And it's getting more and more expensive. Like I think
Yeah.
Netflix is $18 if you want the top tier, $16 if you want 1080p.
Right. So it's like these business models are not sustainable. They're not good for consumers and they're not good for the companies. But it's about becoming like the top dog and eventually gaining an insurmountable market share that others can't compete with.
Right. You know,
and then once that's the case, they raise their prices. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm actually going to take back what I said about the Steam Pass, that I want that. Instead, you make a good point. And Steam already has fantastic Steam sales. You know, that's what it's famous for. And they're doing a good job of these Game Fests and, Next Fest and whatnot, highlighting these things. So really introduce all of these highlight the games in a really discoverable manner, and then have a competitive price and maybe demos. If you get that, that's going to be fairly comparable to Game Pass, I'm going to say, but it's not a subscription. It is, you pay what you want. You get access to games you want. You may not have hundreds of games for the same price of $15, but you're going to own the games and it's something that Steam can just do indefinitely.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the other thing is like with a streaming service that was powered by Valve, right? That would actually make more money, I think, because you think about the business model of like a Game Pass, right? What's happening? Microsoft is buying developers and then paying them to make these games, right? And then you pay Microsoft a token amount for access to all of these games that they've invested a lot of money in, right? So they're obviously not making money that way. With a streaming service, you have the existing games that are on your platform, and then your customers pay you to rent a server time, where then you're getting access to the server to play these games, right? That's a more sustainable model, especially if the gamer buys the game, owns the license to the game, and then is just renting server time from you so that they can stream it to themselves because they don't have either good enough hardware or they're on the go and they want to play it on their phone with a controller or whatever. I feel like that's a much more sustainable business model especially for Valve, and to compete with Microsoft. I think that would be way better for them. Yeah. So it would work well with Steam Deck too. Yeah. Like if you're at home and you want to play a good, like a high end version of a game, that Valve already has infrastructure for streaming, right? They have, you can stream your video of you playing the game. You can stream from your local PC. And so adding that one additional thing, that could be relatively straightforward for them. And again, I've heard rumors for like a couple years that they're working on something like this. So that's where I think Valve would really could capitalize on a competition with Microsoft is through cloud streaming. Yeah. But you know what? I would never use it because cloud streaming sucks.
I do use Moonlight in my house constantly.
Oh yeah,
which is again local streaming. I use it to stream to my Nvidia Shield downstairs to play with my partner, like Resident Evil Village and stuff. It's not without its fault that I have to run upstairs and then change something on my desktop or something, but really good. It's not really good. PC ports.
Ugh.
I was proud of this one. The PC port menace. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is the latest in a long list of poor AAA PC ports. I was trying to think what Star Wars title I was going to use to turn into this, and then the Phantom Menace happened, so there we go.
Nice.
So yes, Jedi Survivor came out. It is one that I was very excited. A lot of people were very excited, and they're saying the actual game inside of this, while some mechanics may not be, some people like certain mechanics, some people don't quite like the mechanics, but they still really enjoy the game, how it looks, the characters. What they don't enjoy is how goddamn terrible the port is. A 4090 cannot hit 60 FPS reliably.
Yeah.
Nothing that any user has done to change the settings to low or whatnot got to a stable, I'm going to say 60 FPS on whatever hardware they used. So it's been doing really bad in terms of that. And also it's been buggy and glitchy, not only on PC, but also on consoles, apparently. It's just PC got the worst brunt of it.
Yeah.
And when I talk about the latest in a long list, I went through and looked for the past 6 months what high profile games came out that were god awful ports. And in no particular order, you have Wild Hearts, Callisto Protocol, Gotham Knights, The Last of Us, Warhammer 40k Darktide, Marvel's Midnight Suns, Forspoken, Dead Space Remake, The Outer Worlds Spacer's Choice Edition, Wulong Fallen Dynasty.
Yeah.
Now, some of those could have improved because, again, they've been released. That's the past 6 months. But that's a concerning list for 6 months. That's more than a bad port a month.
Yep. And the thing is, that's kind of par for the course for AAA developers. They just, at this point, like I think the industry is buckling under its own weight, and it has been for a long time, because most of these games are multi-million-dollar projects, right? And they don't have, they just don't have the scale is so big that they don't have the money to actually complete the games, or they have too much pressure to get the game out before it's done.
They don't have a good enough timeline.
Right, exactly. And so it's like both of those things are contributing to these bad games that, you know, with bad ports to PC. And it, you know, it used to be, this is an interesting thing, and this comes up in my head a lot. It used to be in the United States, we had such good antitrust that companies like television networks, right? ABC, NBC, CBS, they were not allowed to have the shows that their studios produced on their own network. Okay. So if you had, it was Desilu, right, that did Star Trek. Okay. Star Trek had to air on NBC because it could, like, Desilu couldn't put it out on their own networks, right? Any affiliates that they own couldn't air their shows. That's how good we had it. But now it's like Microsoft owns most of the publishers, or most of the, Microsoft owns half of the industry, right? And so they're able to like put their games on their own platforms.
Imagine if they did that with consoles.
Yeah,
how
that's exactly what I'm saying.
it'd be.
Right. And what would that encourage? It would encourage games that actually have a budget and are complete and working.
Well, there'd be no incentive to try to outdo the other console in terms of hardware and stuff, because your games are going to be on the other system.
Yep.
So,
and Nintendo wouldn't be able to bitch and moan.
God, Nintendo games would actually perform way better.
Yeah, and they'd have to also have comparable hardware,
right?
So that publishers would actually make their games for Nintendo consoles.
God, and it was like back in the 90s, you had Microsoft versus the FTC over Netscape. Now it didn't. Eventually, through an appeal, Microsoft didn't get broken up. But like that was so high profile. Yeah. You're not going to see that kind of thing nowadays.
It scared Microsoft so much for decades after.
Oh, yeah.
But now they're back to their old ways.
Yeah. If you go online and look for Bill Gates' deposition for that case, he's just like, it's pathetic.
A petulant child.
Right. He's rocking back and forth. He's like, I don't know this. I've never seen this. I don't know what you're talking about. It's just amazing of how we've changed in terms of antitrust and whatnot.
Yeah, it really, it's lobbyists and it's public apathy. Those are the two biggest problems. And it's like, I think people are waking up to it because they're realizing, like, you know, climate change, you know, it's not really you and I not recycling our bottles that's causing climate change. It's huge industries that are doing everything they can to deregulate themselves.
Right. And we can't as a community put out the same CO2 emissions as just any big corporation.
Yeah. Well, what it takes one person to generate in CO2 for their entire lifetime, it takes a corporation about 2 minutes. Or something to that effect. It's like it's the scale is so tipped in against us because of the lobbyists. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that too much, but you know what I'm saying, right? It's all the same thing. The biggest issue that we're facing is that big companies have way too much power, and it's time that we take it back from Microsoft with video games.
God, yeah. I mean, going back to the topic, I agree, but going back to the topic, we are starting to see a lot of people start speaking out these bad PC ports. You saw with Redfall, not towards the PC port, but with the consoles, they announced it's going to be locked to 30 FPS on consoles to start with, and people were like, what the fuck? This isn't okay. Yep. So we're starting to see that, frame rate and other things start to enter the public conversation because more people are now aware that this kind of exists. And more people are getting a hold of PCs. More and more people are getting Steam Decks, and they want their games to work. So when you get these situations where more and more people are getting bad, worse and worse ports, we're going to have bigger voices say, like, what the fuck? Digital Foundry, I forgot his name, but one guy who made a video about the state of PC ports said, like, 2020 nearly broke him as a reviewer because of how bad the PC ports were.
Yeah.
So I'm not confident that we're going to see this turn around anytime soon, but I'm hoping the next year or 2 or 3, we're going to see developers start shifting their priorities into allowing more time for these games to develop and have better ports. Because, I mean, we see Microsoft and Sony are dipping more and more into PC game development. I think Sony just had a financial press release that everyone's saying, like, oh, they're making a shit ton of money off PC games. To no one's surprise. I think, again, you had Sega amazingly surprised that Persona 4 Golden made a ton of money on Steam. They didn't somehow figure out that was going to sell really well. Capcom has been putting out some really good ports with the Resident Evil 4 remake. I think was doing outside of de novo, right? I haven't seen anyone complain about the performance and whatnot. It's not Steam Deck verified, but people have gotten it to run on Steam Deck at least somewhat 30 FPS. 30 FPS. But like, there's some people out there at least thinking of ports.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, the thing is, it's possible to make a good PC port, as long as you're not like a AAA publisher, apparently. As long as your company doesn't start with E and end with A. Yeah. Well, Jackson.
Yeah.
Where can people find you online?
Well, I write articles on viewsync.com, and when I'm not there, you can find me at Mastodon at jaxseven.tech.lgbt. Text
almost
Jack7
Jack7 at tech LGBT. Is it LGBT tech or is it tech
no,
LGBT?
It's tech.lgbt.
Oh, there we go. See, we're between the two of us, we almost got there.
Yeah, man, I do wish Mastodon handles were shorter.
Yes, Mastodon handles are confusing.
Gardiner,
where are you? Yes. Oh, I'm right here on this YouTube channel if that's where you're watching. I also am the proprietor of viewsync.com. I write an occasional article over there. You can find me on Mastodon at what is it? At Bryant at mastodon.online, I think. And then you can also just go to subscribe2.me and you can find all my links right there.
Yeah, I'm not going to find it right now.
Jackson, I think that was an excellent episode.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being here with me, my friend.
Well, thanks. Good to be back.
Thank you to everybody listening out there. And we will see you next week.
Bye.